Hey guys, Flip Flop here. Today, I want to make a quick video about why the NFL MVP award is a joke, why it disappoints me so bad, but in the same breath, how we can fix it. There is one really easy, teeny tiny solution that can fix all the problems that we have with this NFL MVP award. And I say all these problems, but there's really only one major problem, but it is a huge deal. The big problem with the MVP award, I'm sure a lot of you have already thought this yourself before, is the lack of diversity for the player positions. Every single year, the MVP award goes to a quarterback, and that's just kind of sucky. That's not fair to the great running backs and receivers, even tight ends, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers, secondary, on defense, even special teamers. Justin Tucker, Brandon Aubrey type guys. There's so much great talent around the league, and yet the pinnacle, the greatest award of them all, only goes to quarterbacks. That is just so disappointing and so unfair. And I don't have to tell you how bad a lack of diversity is for any sport, for any league of any kind. And so that's a major problem that needs to be addressed. But good thing is that I have a very mathematical mind, and I love football. So in my free time, when I'm just sitting down, laying in bed, maybe on the couch or whatever, I'll just be brainstorming, just thinking of different formulas, tinkering with things on my phone. And over the past several years, I've thought of some different formulas that could help make the MVP award a little more diverse. And so what I came up with is a really good and simple formula that is universal. It can be applied to any player of any position. You can use it to compare one or two, maybe three candidates to one another. And so without further ado, let me share with you guys the formula that I've come up with. All right, guys, let's have a look. This is my special MVP formula. Y'all are gonna love it. There's only 3 criteria, very easy, plain vanilla, simple for anybody to be able to understand. Number 1, team success. For an MVP candidate, just look at the team's record and then look at the percentage of the team's total stats they have. Pretty simple. If your team has a good record and you have a high percentage of your team's total stats, you're probably a good candidate to win, offense or defense. Very easy. And our number 2 criteria is just pure volume stats. And within that, kind of the league rank, like where you rank amongst the league. So a league leading rusher or a league leading sack or league leading interceptor might have a good chance. And then efficiency, maybe more so for quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, TD interception ratio, yards per carry, percentage of the time you draw a double team for defensive linemen, that kind of stuff. And number 3, historicity. I know that's a big word right there, but how historical was their season? So if you're someone like Saquon, who has one of the few only ever 2,000-yard seasons, or Aaron Donald a few years ago, 20 sacks, blowing out of the water the sack total of any defensive tackle ever, maybe break a record for passing yards, break the record, historical, something that has not been done much in NFL history. Those kind of things, that would be historicity. And now right here, take a look at the past MVP winners in NFL history. Quarterback. Look at this, going back, there's 2012 at the bottom, the first year in the last 12 that we've had a MVP that wasn't a quarterback. And then look after that, more quarterbacks. 06, LaDainian Tomlinson. 05, Sean Alexander. So 2 running backs. Thank goodness they got those, because those were really historical seasons they both had. And so this is in our newest century, which is already a quarter of the way through, 25 years old, and we only have 4 non-quarterbacks in like 25 years. Awful, pathetic. And in my opinion, it's simply just not fair to the players of the other positions. Like I mentioned earlier, like, no offense to, I saw a few on there like Matt Ryan and Rich Gannon, but like, those are good quarterbacks, don't get me wrong, good caliber NFL starters, but they should not be winning MVP over someone like Ray Lewis or somebody like who was a great Isaac Bruce or Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Marvin Harrison. Like, the best players at the other positions are so much better than those upper mid-tier quarterbacks. And so, do you get what I mean? How it's like a slap in the face to Charles Woodson, Ed Reed, Reggie White, those kind of players. Those are the ones that should be winning some league MVPs. In more recent years, Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt, those T.J. Watt even, those are MVP caliber players, not the mid-tier quarterbacks. The only QBs that should win it are truly the top tier ones. There's some in there, don't get me wrong, you know, your Mahomes, your Lamar, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. Those are your MVP caliber quarterbacks, of course. But man, it's just no diversity. And so I showed you guys the formula a second ago of how we can fix it. And let me show you a few examples of us implementing it in past years to kind of show how it would look put into practice. All right, so right here first, we have Lamar Jackson's MVP winning season from last year, 2023. And this is just abysmal. I love Lamar. He deserves it this year. He deserved it in 2019, one of the all-time greats, but the 2023 MVP is absurd, and you'll see why right here. 3,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, decent numbers, nothing mind-boggling. 800 rush yards, which is good, 5 rushing touchdowns, so 4,400 yards total, and 31 total touchdowns with 7 interceptions. Let's say 10 turnovers. He probably lost about 3 fumbles that season. So those are really good numbers, but come on, those are not MVP numbers. And let's compare it to Christian McCaffrey, the person who I think should have won it last year. 1,400 rushing yards, led the league, 14 rushing touchdowns, amongst the top of the league, and then 67 receptions for another 500 yards and 7 receiving touchdowns. So he had 21 touchdowns, which by far led the league for non-quarterbacks. And then the almost 2,000 yards from scrimmage. And then also his team had a better record by... Wait, no, Lamar's team had a better record by 1 game. Sorry. So Lamar's team had a 1 game better record. But come on, McCaffrey, like by and large, should have been the MVP last year, according to the formula. And that would give some diversity. And here's a year with an even more glaring difference. This is 2002. Rich Gannon, this is the actual MVP winner on the Oakland Raiders. 97 passer rating, decent. 4,600 yards. He probably did lead the league in passing yards. I'll give him that. But 26 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, that is an average TD interception ratio. And this is who won our MVP in 2002. That is ridiculous. Come on, guys. You cannot sit there and tell me with a straight face those are MVP numbers. Now, this right here is Derek Brooks, the stats of the person who I think should have won. 5 interceptions, 3 pick sixes, 200-plus interception return yards, 11 pass deflections, a forced fumble, a fumble return touchdown. So 4 defensive touchdowns this year. By the way, his team won the Super Bowl. And then let's get over to his tackle stats. I'm waiting for them to load. Hold on 1 second. Here they come. 3, 2, 1. The tackle numbers. Okay, 1 sack, 118 tackles, 88 solos, 7 tackles for loss. And he won Defensive Player of the Year, by the way. The team records were about the same. Maybe the Raiders had a little bit better of a team record going back to my formula. But there's no doubt if you watch football that Derek Brooks carried that defense, man. It's just absurd. He should have been the MVP that year. That's another good one for diversity. Here comes 2018. And this right here, just to prove truly how unbiased I am, this is my favorite player of all time, Patrick Mahomes. He won MVP this year with those stats that you'll see. 5,000 passing yards, 50 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. And I think there's a case to be made that Patrick Mahomes could have conceded the MVP this year to Aaron Donald, because those right there are great QB numbers. Statistically, those are probably top 3. That's a top 3 QB season of all time, maybe top 5. But let's look at Aaron Donald's stats on the contrary. Aaron Donald, 20.5 sacks. That is almost double what any other defensive tackle has ever gotten before. Defensive tackles are known for getting double teamed and for just being big and slow. So for him to put those numbers up as a D tackle, 25 tackles for loss on the very right. I think he had 4 forced fumbles this year. And there is 41 QB hits. So while Mahomes is debatable, one of the best seasons of all time for a QB, this Aaron Donald season is no debate. By far, head and shoulders the best defensive tackle season of all time. And Aaron Donald's team had a better record and went to the Super Bowl. So even as a Mahomes fanboy, I would give Donald this MVP. Let me show you one more season to prove my point. Aaron Rodgers, 2014 NFL MVP, 4,300 passing yards, 38 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. This right here, those are really good numbers. That's a respectable MVP, a great passer rating at 112. I will give him that. The efficiency with a 38 and 5 is one of the top of all time. But There's been about 5 to 10 other QB seasons with efficiency like that. And then he didn't lead the league in anything in particular. But let's look at J.J. Watt, who should have won MVP in my opinion. We got a pick six, an 80-yard pick six, 10 pass deflections for a defensive lineman, 4 forced fumbles, a fumble return TD. So you have your 2 defensive touchdowns. If you remember, this is the year he caught 3 receiving touchdowns. So he had 5 touchdowns as a defensive player. 5 fumble recoveries. I didn't even notice that. I'm waiting for the other stats to load up real quick. 3, 2, 1, 20 and a half sacks. Definitely led the league. 78 tackles, 29 tackles for loss, 51 QB hits, and a safety. Come on. You're telling me that is not a historical season that could have won MVP? Aaron Rodgers was great. Aaron Rodgers was one of the better seasons of all time. Maybe top tier efficiency, but this right here, there is no maybes. This is just maybe the best all around, one of the top 2 or 3, no debate, all around defensive seasons of all time. And do you get what I mean, guys? That a lot of the QB seasons are like they were the best QB in the league and they had an above average season, but they're robbing running backs, receivers, and defensive players of downright historical seasons that have almost never been done in the history of football. If you're doing, even if you're a kicker like Tucker making 66 yarders, if you're a punter just changing the league, if you're doing stuff that's never been done and you're anchoring your team to a good record, to one of the top seeds, you need to be MVP. End of discussion. And so those are a few examples right there. Y'all let me know in the comments what you guys think about my formula, if y'all kind of agree or disagree, if there's a few little modifications that you would make. Just let me know your thoughts in general. I always appreciate you guys' input and feedback. And I thank y'all for watching. I hope you all have an incredibly blessed rest of y'all's day, and I will catch y'all in the next video.